Good afternoon. I'm Bob Frawley,
And I'm Dan Woods.
and we're running for Borough Council in Bernardsville. One of the issues facing our town is the disposition of Rushman Farms. And in order to discuss that, we've asked Kerry Hazelton to join us. Kerry is a former member of the Bernardsville Environmental Commission. She's on the Recreation Committee, and she's an advisor to the Somerset County Open Space Committee. Kerry, would you just start out by telling us what is Rushman Farms? Where do we find it?
Absolutely, Bob, and good to see you, Dan. Rushman Farms is also known as Meadowbrook Farms. When you're driving on 202 northbound from Far Hills into Bernardsville, just look out your window on the right-hand side, and you will see about a mile of pasture, woodlands, hillside, and cows. So we're famous for our cows. That is the Rushman Farm, also known as the Meadowbrook Farm in Bernardsville.
Right. And Meadowbrook Farm, or Rushman Farm, as we know, right now, there's an article in the Bernardsville News. It's subject to a possible subdivision. It's the subject of an estate right now, which is to be divided among three heirs. And at least according to the Bernardsville News and at the public hearing, the heirs right now can't seem to come to an agreement as to what that division should look like. It wasn't in the will, and the situation is such that they really have to decide among themselves. And the question now before us in Bernardsville, we'd like to preserve as much of that as possible. The land belongs to the heirs. They can do, within the bounds of the law, they can do pretty much what they want with it. So we can't tell them what to do, but what we can do is make available to them the various grants and programs that are available from the state and the county. Bernardsville itself has open space funds available, but it's really a matter of sitting everybody down around a table and coming to a rational agreement. I think that the council, or at least a committee of the council, could probably facilitate these negotiations and work with their council and just see what's involved by getting involved, by telling them what we can do to help out. Kerry, do you have any comments you'd add to that? Dan?
I think that would be a good starting point, because communication and just getting together to try to understand everybody's viewpoint, I think, is always a good idea when you come up against any conundrum, as it were. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that was a disadvantage for the current council is that we didn't have plans available, or didn't even really start thinking about what we were going to do. We didn't have knowledgeable people about the open space funding, the grants that are available, and now we're playing catch up, trying to figure out how to solve this problem. Whereas if we were a little bit more proactive, we'd already have a committee that was well versed in the grants and the legal issues, and could have provided guidance beforehand, as opposed to scrambling to put together a plan. But that's where we find ourselves right now. Okay. And I think that the best choice right now is we, as members of the council, would start pulling together a plan or several plans. We would take these plans to the attorneys for the estate, and they could speak with the heirs, and we could kind of come together to hopefully settle this issue and preserve the space as much as possible for the Borough of Bernardsville.
One thing that's definitely true is that the family loves the property. It's a beautiful property. Everyone enjoys it, but it is their property that they are actively enjoying farming. There's a glitter factory on there that is running, and they've been there for 80 years. So we know they are invested in the community. And I hope that we can come to an agreement that works for everybody, but most especially for the family.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I don't think anyone wants them to leave. I think what we're hoping for is to reach some kind of agreement where that land could be preserved and they could continue to do what they would like to with it. And there are farmland easements that would allow that to take place. And preserve that land is the open space farmland that it is, while still providing them with some sort of some payment from that.
Yeah. significant remuneration, I would understand.
Yeah.
But without knowing the numbers, it would be impossible for them to make a decision. So-
Exactly, and that's what we really need to do. We need to get together a committee of knowledgeable people who are well versed in the law and well versed in the grants that are available. And we have those people in Bernardsville too. I'm not just making this up. There are several individuals who could be tapped to man such a committee. And that would allow us to really move forward with presenting plans.
Right. There's a gentleman at the county who is responsible for putting together Nantarar, for example, who we could call. Not to blow my own horn, but I've been a business lawyer for over 40 years, and I have done numerous business divorces where we've had to sit down and with people who are at each other's throat. The business is like their baby, and they don't want to cut up the baby, but they hate the other guy. And it's really a matter of sitting down, finding out really what everybody wants, and then start working towards something in common. And I think that the town, with the various grants and the programs that are available, is really in a unique position to do that, to help everybody sit down at the table and work toward getting what they want. And that's what I would do and what Dan and I would do if we were elected.
Yeah, and I think that we should just point out that what we don't want is some commercial subdivision going in there and a bunch of 2-3 acre lots going up with housing all over there and destroying that bucolic area. So.
Right, and the other thing we don't want is a battle. I don't think we want a battle with the Rushman family. I would be very happy if we could all go to the Board of Adjustment and be on the same side.
Absolutely.
With a plan that works for everybody, as opposed to having adversarial proceedings and people threatening going to court, and which costs a lot of money and doesn't accomplish anything.
Absolutely.
So, anyway.
The Rushman Farm was one of the driving forces behind the 1999 creation of the Open Space Trust Fund in Bernardsville, our own borough-wide collection, which I think is 2 cents on the 100 at this point. And we've collected a fair amount of money, not an insignificant amount, that is ready for acquisition and acquisition only. Recently, we've been working more on developing some of our existing parkland in accordance with a referendum that passed in 2019. But the acquisition money is still there. There's money at the county level. There's farmland preservation money, and I hope that that we could bring together a group of people at different levels to make this happen for everyone.
And that might be a part of our plan. I know Kerry and Dan, we all talked before about trails and connecting the various communities. And, Kerry, you have a particular interest in that and expertise.
Yeah, recently there had been an initiative at the county level to work on developing some of our parklands, which Bernardsville did benefit from. We got a grant. We were one of the first to be ready with a shovel-ready plan for our pickleball courts, which are seeing great use and are a wonderful asset for our community from youngest up through some of our oldest residents. That program has now transitioned at the county level into one that is promoting trail development, specifically connecting trails to make communities within a borough or a township or township to borough to township possible. So that is just a new focus that they have at the county level, and there are certainly grants out there. And I am the head of the Trails Committee on Rec, and I just would like to know what you two think we could do in terms of new or existing trails to bring up our usage rate and make them more enjoyable for Bernardsville residents. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have a thought. Kerry, you and I ran for council last year, and one of the first things we talked about was telling people where our trails were. And we made it a big issue, and in fact, even though we weren't elected, we made enough of us think about it that, in fact, there is a sign now
There are
telling people where Kirkpatrick Park is.
That's right. So that's a start. That's a start
And
for sure. I feel good about it.
right, Dan, I know you talked about taking your kids on the trails.
Sure, absolutely. I've got 3 relatively little ones, and we'd like to go out hiking. One of the things that I think is really important is not just the creation of new trails, but the maintaining of the ones that we already have. So totally for additional trails, and especially if we could get interconnected trails with some of the other towns nearby. But at the same time, we really need to start working and ensuring that every trail that we have in the borough is maintained to a standard that people can actually use them. It's great to have it, but if you're facing, 5-foot-high grass at the trailhead,
Sticker bushes.
Ticks and poison ivy, then no one wants to actually go out and use it.
Yeah,
And we have the resources, we have the equipment to have the borough maintenance people to take advantage of that to actually clear some of this brush out at the trailhead and make it enjoyable for everyone. And
You've
usable for
experienced
everyone.
this when you go out, say, to Kirkpatrick or to Peters Tract or...
Yeah, you can tell when they've had it done, and you can tell when it's been neglected.
Okay.
And when it's been neglected, then you get intrusion of, as you said, poison ivy and sticker bushes, and the high grass that ticks like to go into.
Right.
And I understand. It's a nature trail. We're not
Right.
trying to make this our living room, but at the same time, if you can't clear off some of the area that's where the trail starts, then no one can actually go and use it.
And no one can go maintain it. We have a corps of volunteers that, on their own hook, goes out and, led by Kerry on numerous occasions, goes out and clears these trails. And
We're not always there, and I do go through the long grass to get in, and I find oftentimes that the trail is not in bad condition once you get past that, but it's a real turnoff for people with little kids.
Yeah.
If they see that, they just assume that the rest of it is going to be a disaster, and it's not.
And these
It's
wooded
just that
areas.
it's just a little thing because it's at the front end and the back end of the trail is where the light gets. That's where the light gets in.
Yep.
So that's why the grass grows there.
Yeah, in those wooded areas,
Yeah.
it doesn't grow, so
Right.
it's relatively clear.
It's relatively easy to keep track of that. So, yeah, that would be a fairly simple fix to get more people out on
Absolutely.
the trail. That's a good idea.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here on the trails and on the Rushman Farms, and I think it's fair to conclude that we think the Rushman Farms ought to be negotiated, that we should participate in the negotiations actively and provide basically facilitate with the various resources that are available to us a negotiated settlement so that we're all on the same side.
And I'd also toss in that I think we're in agreement that we should establish a new committee on open space. It's great that the rec department has been doing it, but you also have a lot on your plate within the rec committee. It's important enough to need its own dedicated group of people who are overseeing.
It's a different skill set.
Exactly, that too.
And we
That's
have,
what the rec committee has said.
Yeah, and we have the people in Bernardsville who are certainly qualified to man that committee.
Absolutely.
Or woman that committee, as the case may be.
As the case may be.
In any case, I think that brings us to a conclusion. Remember to vote for Woods and Frawley.
On or before November 4th.
Yes, absolutely, and vote by mail. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.